Welcome back to Your Next Episode, the podcast that supports, informs and entertains the midlife population. I'm Amy.
And I'm Louise.
Today, our guest is actress Julie Graham, and I'm so excited about this episode. I'm a massive fan. And she has brought together a star-studded cast to create the YouTube drama that everyone seems to be talking about. The first drama to be made entirely in lockdown. It's called Dun Breedin, which as a northerner, I just love that. D-U-N Breedin, Dun Breedin. And it's about a group of friends navigating midlife. So first of all, welcome. Hi, Julie. Thank you for doing this.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Louise and I have both been waxing lyrical about Dun Breedin. We're massively impressed with what you've done. I mean, we were like, oh, aren't we smug carrying on our podcast during lockdown? And then and then this comes along with all the shots and just the scripts are amazing and the performances are really good and the editing is slick and each episode just leaves you wanting more. Tell us in a nutshell, what is it about?
Well, first of all, that is great to hear. I have to say that it makes my heart soar. So thank you. It's about a group of women who have gone through various stages of their lives together. They've had children, they've been married, they've been divorced, they've experienced death, domestic violence, alcoholism, lots and lots and lots of booze, fun, depression. And now they're all kind of, their children are at a certain age, they're either young teenagers or they've already left home. And they're kind of done with that part of their life. And it's just about how they're navigating the next part and also going through the menopause at the same time at different stages. And although I didn't want to make a menopause-based drama comedy, I just wanted menopause to be the sort of backdrop of the comedy because I wanted to address it because it doesn't seem to be addressed ever.
Absolutely. And most dramas sort of cherry pick what they want to put in there. And normally the menopause is kind of like, let's throw that out. I guess usually because stuff is being written and produced by men a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely something to do with the male gaze. And I think often the menopausal woman is the butt of a joke or she's a kind of figure of ridicule, which is slowly changing. But I just think it's always been a bit of a taboo subject for some reason. And also, I can't blame men for this because women don't really talk about it either. And that I think there's just been a culture of certainly my mother's and aunties and grandmother's generation just didn't talk about it at all. And in fact, probably went through their whole life being medicated through it.
I mean, it would be whispered, wouldn't it? Like, oh, she's going through the change.
She's going through the change. It's a bit like she's having sex.
Yeah.
So I do think it's a generational thing, but also I think now women who are coming into their late 40s, 50s, 60s are just so vibrant and vital and sexy and sassy, and they still have so much to say and so much to give. And, they're in their primes, really. I mean, I know they say 60 is the new 50 and all that sort of stuff, but it really is. Because all the women that I know who are in that age group are just phenomenal. And then you've got this thing that you have to go through, which is a menopause, which, let's face it, is a bit shit. But unless we talk about it and have a shared experience, then it'll be even more shit. And then, there's so much that you can do. There's so much help out there. So I kind of just wanted to address it. And I think through comedy, it's often you can kind of get the point across a little bit more without banging someone across the head with it.
Absolutely. Well, it is I was going to say it's a dry subject. but obviously we could, if you're seeing yourself on screen and what you're going through, and there's that sort of satirical, ironic angle on it, then you could be like, oh, actually, I've been going through this, and this is shit. But that's hilarious that she's putting her face in the fridge at 3 o'clock in the morning.
So dry subject, hot topic. Of course, it's all the euphemisms. But having said that, exactly. But if someone's going to laugh at me because I'm going through the menopause, then I want to make the joke, not somebody else.
100%.
So that was my point. And also I didn't want to shy away from how painful it can be and how debilitating it can be and how it can just absolutely drive you insane. I mean, for me personally, I just felt, I felt rage to the point where I just, people would look at me the wrong way and I'd want to strangle them in the street.
Absolutely. When you were just saying just now about all the women that you know who are going through this phase of life, are, funny, amazing people. And, this programme really impressively is waving the flag for midlifers.
Fantastic.
Can you just tell us who's in it?
So we have Tamsin Outhwaite, Angela Griffin, Denise Welsh, Alison Newman, Tracy Ann Oberman, and then my old mucker from Benidorm, Steve Edge, is in it. Yeah. Wonderful actress called Nimmy March, who's just come into the cast, and Nicola Stevenson is going to be making an appearance soon, and various members of our family who we've turned into not only actors, but we've turned them into crew
members, because it's been made entirely in lockdown. I just want to make that point again.
Yes.
But the story isn't set in lockdown, is it? Which I was sort of like, is kind of a relief.
It was
really.
a relief, wasn't it? You don't refer to it at all. I love that.
So why? What was that? Why was that?
Well,
decision?
I've been developing this series for a couple of years actually, because when I started going through the menopause, I looked at TV, drama, and comedy, and I just didn't see myself represented there. So I had the idea. I thought, well, stop moaning about it, Julie, and just write it. So I'd been developing it with a producer for a couple of years, and the usual life takes over. You get busy, procrastination, all those things, and so we concocted this plan. It was his idea really to do these 10-minute tasters of what the series could be when we come into the real world, and we absolutely made the decision not to set it in lockdown, because people are living it. They've had enough of it, and we wanted to kind of show what life was like and what it will be like again. So it was a conscious decision, and then of course we had to overcome the obstacles of getting around that. And part of my, I suppose, trepidation in a way was, I want to show these women at their best. I want to show them out there in the workplace and slaying and being amazing and thriving and having wonderful lives and having sometimes terrible lives. But what I've done, unfortunately, is I've sort of domesticated them and stuck them in their houses. However,
that's relatable, Julie. That's very relatable at the moment.
Well, I know. But hopefully we've created a little bit of a world outside with them kind of going off for various lunches and meeting up outside, obviously not on screen. Of course, we had to respect social distancing,
Yeah, but I think it creates quite an intimacy. There's, I've really
I'm glad to hear
ummed
that.
and ahed about what it is that there's so much of this that I just think, is just... I wonder, will it be lost when I'm sure it won't be, but, if it gets commissioned for TV, I just feel that intimacy comes across quite strongly. And these women on it are they're very similar to like my friends.
Yes.
I think everyone will watch and go, I know something.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way my friends behave and talk and feel is hilarious most of the time, and and this filming in lockdown really provides that relatable quality, I think.
Great. And also we had this idea, well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I do get very busy and I don't get to see my friends very often except on FaceTime and on the phone and all that sort of stuff. But Robin Shepherd, our director, who's brilliant, she because I wrote a lot of it when we were just speaking to each other on the phone, and she kind of came up with the FaceTime idea of saying, look, it does create a wonderful intimacy in a way. You feel like you're in the same room. So that was a great idea of hers, actually. And I think that's made a huge difference, because you kind of do believe that they're just down the road from each other, or, they're just a little bit too busy.
It really works. Yeah.
Oh, good.
And what is it about, you're 54, is that right? Am I right? Yes? Yeah, okay. So what is it about midlife, long-term female relationships that you wanted to explore? What do you think is different about these friendships compared to friendships when we're younger? I've given it a lot of thought, but I'd be interested to hear what you think is different, when our age.
Well, I think there's a longevity in female friendships that you don't have with any other relationships, probably apart from your children and your family. But then, some family are just foisted upon you, aren't they? So it's a choice. It's a choice to stay in touch with these people. And I think especially when you're going into your kind of, 40s and 50s, a lot of those friendships have been forged through either through your career or your job or your or having children or not having children. But I think there's things that you go through together that are
lots of shared experiences,
so
aren't
much
there?
shared experience, and you know, and I don't know about you, all my female friendships have lasted much longer than my relationships.
Well, I'm married to Paul, who, as I said, we have been together for 30 years, actually.
All right, well done.
That's rare.
I think it's, I know, a lot of luck's come into that, I'm sure. But sorry, carry on. Yeah, your female friendships.
Yeah, and I guess they're the first people I turn to whenever you know, they're the first people I turn to when I get good news, and they're the first people I turn to when I get bad news. And I just think there's just a constancy there, and there's a shared sense of humour, and they just get you in a way that a lot of people just don't get you.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think, you know, when you're in these long-term friendships and at our age, you know, you feel with those friendships, well, I feel sort of understood and known, and there are less sort of deal breakers in midlife friendship because they feel like they can sustain just about anything. You've survived a history of shared experiences, including, you know, conflicts and mistakes and things. And that provides a really sort of protective quality against impact of stress on that relationship.
It does, and also there's a lack of judgment as well. I think that's one of the key things as well, is that, you know, I mean, you know, you see your friends making these terrible mistakes, and you think, okay, I'll just be there to catch you when you fall. I can give you advice, but I can't live your life. But I will be there when it all goes tits up, which it generally does. And I mean, I know from me that I've had, you know, I've been in situations where I probably know that I'm not making the right decisions, and I've had brilliant advice from my friends, but ultimately they don't judge me. They just say, look, you know, we'll be there for you. And I think that's the difference. And I think also, I have dropped a lot of people along the way the older I get. And I think that was mostly to do with my best friend, Claire Cathcart, who was an actress. She died when she was 48. And she was my best friend. And I think when she died, I kind of thought I would have more time for other people. But actually, it had the opposite effect. I had less time for people because I thought, I want to spend time with people that I really, really want to hang out with. And so I cut a lot of dead wood out of my life. And I think that comes from maturity and kind of knowing who you want to hang around with and who you don't want to hang around with, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think anybody who you're still friends with in your mid to late 40s, they've survived that fire of the 20s and the 30s and all the stuff that gets thrown at you and all the drama that goes on. I mean, Louise and I talk a lot about, you know, that sort of bitchiness and that drama that goes on, the competitive shit that goes on when you're in your 20s and 30s and you're so insecure, and then maybe something does happen in your mid 40s or something. So sorry to hear about that, Julie. Such a tragic thing that makes you think, hang on a minute, my threshold for who I'm hanging out with has just gone up because I'm not wasting time fannying about with, you know, bullshit, basically.
Yeah, it's true. And also, obviously, all your friends know where the bodies are buried, so that's another reason to they know all your secrets. So you've talked in other interviews. I've been obviously what I like to say researching / stalking you, and you've spoke about not caring about what other people think anymore, and I think that is a sentiment echoed by a lot of my female friends approaching midlife or in midlife. I mean, what age did that shift happen for you? Was it probably around that time that your mate died? I think we were both coming up to that anyway. I mean, Claire and I were very similar in that. Probably that's why we were such good friends. But I think we were just hurtling towards that didn't really care phase anymore. And I just think it comes with maturity, and it comes with just being. I hate that phrase, being comfortable in your own skin, but I unfortunately, I think it's a cliche for a reason. Because it's true. You just care less.
I guess you're empowered because you've shed that insecurity.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah. And I think, you know, not just being a woman, but being an actress as well, you're constantly kind of, the spotlight's constantly on how you look and all that nonsense, and it can be very, very wearing sometimes. And yeah, I just think it comes with maturity, and I think if you do still care about what other people think, then you probably need therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had therapy? Do you mind me asking?
I did have therapy. I had therapy in my early 40s, and I couldn't get on with it, to be honest. And I don't really know why. Maybe I just didn't find the right person, because I am an advocate of it. Absolutely. I think talking therapy is brilliant. And I think it's fantastic for a lot of people. Maybe I just didn't find the right person, as I say, but it didn't really do it for me, I have to say. I somehow felt self-indulgent. Maybe it's a Scottish thing. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Or a northern thing. You know, that kind of thing. Or, just pull yourself together.
You should be scrubbing a step, love, not chatting to somebody on a leather sofa.
Oh, stop bothering people.
Yeah.
And also it's expensive.
Yeah.
God. I think maybe I'll become a therapist.
Yeah.
Maybe writing the series been a cathartic experience.
You've no idea how cathartic it was. In fact, it is. It's still an ongoing process. But yes, it's so cathartic. I've actually, just before I was speaking to you, I'm filming a scene in my home where I have a breakdown about not being able to find my HRT. so that's a little spoiler for future episodes. And it's so cathartic. I'm screaming at my own house, so the neighbours might call the police in a minute. So if I get carted away in a second, you'll know why.
You're doing it for the art, darling. You're doing it for the art.
Yes, darling. But no, it is very cathartic, and also it's been lovely as well, because I've been able to write. A lot of these women are based on friends of mine, and obviously a lot of the actresses that I'm working with at the moment, they are friends of mine too. But I can write down little aspects of my personality or experience and kind of get it down on paper, and then to see it out there's something very satisfying about it, and very cathartic.
Have you written before, Julie, or is this the first thing that you've written?
No, Claire and I were writing something together, and it's one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to do it as well, because I wanted to honour that.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, it was Claire. Claire kind of got me. She encouraged me to go on Tinder. And because she was a huge fan of Tinder, she was absolutely hilarious with it. So the first thing we were writing together was a thing called Tinderellas, and she encouraged me to go on it, and I said, absolutely not. There's no way. I don't want to be recognised, and it's so embarrassing. So when I was in Benidorm, I decided, okay, I'll try it, because I'm in a foreign country. I'll just go for foreign men. I won't go for foreign, for anyone English or Scottish. And the first person I met was my husband. Oh, my now husband.
Wow!
Oh my God!
Not my then
amazing.
Husband.
No,
not my husband who's on Tinder.
That would be a plot twist, wouldn't it?
That would have been embarrassing.
Wow!
Oh, that's amazing.
Goodness.
I know. So I always kind of, even though Claire wasn't alive at that time, I always kind of credit her with that's how I met Davy, because she was the one that encouraged me to go on it. So,
so writing for the first time, and midlife is a time when we need to feel, alive and ambitious, and that need sort of sets in, I think, because we sense that there's a finite time to accomplish goals, and everyone involved with Dun Breedin is. Everyone, apart from the children, everyone's a midlifer, I think. And you're all, in your various professions, with this project, you're being really bold and pioneering and new ways. Everyone's trying new ways of working. And I just wonder, that's not something you would necessarily associate with midlifers, I think. And was it daunting? How have you all encouraged and challenged and buoyed each other along?
Well, it was very challenging because, filming, one of the reasons I love being an actor is because I love the collaboration. I love being on a film set. I love hanging out with people. I love actors. I adore them. The crew they're always marvellous people. And it's like a little family. So it's all part of the process. So this is extremely odd. But having said that, we're always on the phone to each other. We're constantly having meetings. Zoom has kind of taken over my life, I suppose, as it has many people. We have a Zoom rehearsal, and then we have a Zoom read through. And our wonderful director, Robin Shepherd, then sends us floor plans and exactly where to put the camera. So it's all very choreographed. It's not kind of randomly. I mean, she is kind of overseeing every single shot, although she's not in the room.
It's mind-boggling. Is it really complicated?
It really is.
Yeah.
And my aim was to create fantastic parts for older women, and that was one of my one of the reasons I wanted to do it, and so that gives me huge joy to see all these fabulous actresses being able to show off their bells and whistles,
God, yeah.
It gives me great joy. So we are constantly in touch with each other, but I'm just absolutely desperate to get everybody in the same room. So I'm running out of domestic situations.
But you've really continued to be creative at a time when the rest of the TV industry, I'm sure it's sorting itself out now, but there was a big everything ground to a halt a bit, didn't it? So
yeah, it was terrifying.
Yeah. But
I mean, I had 2 projects go down, as I'm sure. I think everybody in the cast had projects go down, and I mean, even just from a financial point of view, it's terrifying. But just from it's heartbreaking for the industry because, we rely so much on the arts, and I kind of really want to say this, and I don't mean to kind of bang people over the head with it, but I really hope when this is all over that people really appreciate how much the arts has played a part in keeping people going and giving people hope and also inspiring people, because arts is usually the way down the list, and it shouldn't be. It should be right up at the top, because it's the way we express ourselves, and the stories that we tell, and look at how creative people have become.
I was going to say, every meme that you see, everything you see that people have put up, that is part of a creative, artistic thing that should be nurtured and invested in. You're absolutely right.
What we're doing right now is creative and all that sort of stuff. So, and I think all those, those people that are suffering, the theatres, and a lot of actors who are, out of work, and also a lot of crews and a lot of all these venues, these music venues and theatre venues, which might not survive. It's absolutely devastating.
Have your other projects been sort of paused with a view to get them back on in 21, or is it just under discussion?
Well, we were meant to be doing Shetland, which we were meant to doing Series 6, and that has been postponed. It's not been cancelled, it's been postponed. And also a thing called Queens of Mystery, which we were meant to be doing as well. So it's just all kind of up in the air at the moment. So this has actually saved my sanity.
Oh, I bet.
I have to say.
Because
it's been such a wonderful process to work with great, the two producers, Jackie and Andrew Green, are my really, really close friends. So we're doing it through their company, and we've got a great producer, Claire Balin, and our wonderful, obviously, our director, Robin Shepherd, and Ian McCallum, our PR guy. Just, what was lovely to me was that everybody said yes immediately. Yeah. And then we have a wonderful editor, Dave Barrett, and a lovely guy, Al, who's his assistant. And they're, David's in his shed editing, and Al's downloading all this stuff. And it's a real collaborative thing, even though we're not together.
Yeah. It's massively inspiring, Julie. I mean,
thank you.
I'm just thinking about me in my little sort of back bedroom, and I've got my little camera that I put in a little grip thing, and try and do my little videos. And I occasionally say to my husband, "Would you just stand there so I've got a back of a headshot?" And he's like, "Fuck off, Amy." Like, obviously I'm not creating something that thousands of people are watching. I don't know if he needs to see the profit and loss sheet to actually get involved. But how has it been like working with your families? I mean, have there been rows, or has it brought you together? I mean, are you going to remember this experience?
Interesting. That's all I'll say. Well, Davey's been brilliant. He's my cameraman, DOP, my caterer. He's basically doing everything, and then I'm just standing in front of the camera being bossy, and occasionally saying, "Don't tell me how to act." If he dares to criticise anything that I'm doing.
Your daughter was brilliant in that first episode.
Yeah, she's great. She's got a bit bored with it now, so I'm having to.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah,
having
that's
to bribe her. Just you're in the middle of a shot, and the postman will come to the door, and the dog will start barking, and the fire alarm will go off, and it's just
like
it's not,
cut.
Yeah, so it can actually take all day to film one scene, but generally my family have been very, very supportive. But it was funny. Tamsin Outhwaite was saying to me that her and her boyfriend Tom, who's playing her boyfriend in the show, because luckily he's an actor. She said before we filmed Dun Breedin, they'd never had an argument, and now they're like Dan and Ange from EastEnders.
Oh God!
So I hope I don't split anybody up.
No, I'm sure not. And I think the fact that your families are all involved really enriches this drama. Naturally, it just brings that to it, So, because family facilitates, that connection of common experiences that we were talking about earlier that feed into midlife friendships. It's all just part of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, there's that whole thing, especially when you go through, kind of raising teenagers together as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're constantly having to kind of just go out and scream and drink wine and not, I just have that's a shared experience as well. I mean,
yes.
Friends and I decided we might do a teenage swap.
Oh,
brilliant!
Because what we realised was that when her teenagers came to my house, they were absolutely lovely.
Of course.
And when my teenagers went to her house, they were absolutely lovely. And we were like, we're onto something here. Maybe we should just do a swap until they're 20.
Yes. Amy hasn't got teenagers yet. Her kids are still quite young, but she's heard me talking about I've got one left at home and the other three have left home now, but there were some really, really dark times when they were teenagers. So
I think I don't know what it is. I think I actually am really enjoying the teenage years. And I know that sounds perverse because they are difficult, but there's also I think because I remember so clearly being a teenager and how shit it can be and how painful and awful and rubbish it can be because you don't feel autonomous. You're sort of in between that stage of you just kind of, you're still a child, but yet, you still have to live at home and the rules. And so I think I remember that. So I do cut my girls a lot of slack, but we do have spectacular all singing, all dancing.
Yes.
Rows where the dog wants to leave home.
Can I just ask you, Julie, I'm thinking about, as you're talking, because I was just thinking about that scene with you and your daughter, and you were saying like, your dad's in the bloody shed. I'm sure that's not a reference to your husband,
no.
but it was obviously the character. So do you all live in Brighton, or are those external shots? Have you done those around Brighton and then threaded them into the internal shots of the other actors? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I'm the only one who lives in Brighton.
Right.
So
because if you'd have said to me, no, we all live 4 streets down from each other, I'd have gone, right, okay. Because it's just.
Oh God, I'm so glad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the joins because it is my area of interest. I'm like, how have they done that? And how have they done that? And I love that shot. I can't remember the actress or the character's name, but she's got that amazing dog that just gives her the and she's pouring the wine into her glass.
Yeah, I know.
What's her name? Marnie.
That's Alison Newman. Her dog Marnie is so.
She's a brilliant actor. She's one of those people who you're like, she's been in loads of stuff. She's a brilliant actor. She has anonymity, which I guess is great because I just can't remember her name. But she's one of those sort of like, God, I recognise her face. But that shot when she's telling about her backstory and the close up onto her face, I was like, oh, it felt. Maybe it felt realer and even more authentic than it being a proper sort of set up camera shot because it just felt. Do you know what I mean? It felt a bit, like raw.
Yes, exactly. And what's lovely is that, because we're friends and everything, we kind of have these conversations. And, Marnie's the most gorgeous dog, and it just seemed perverse not to have Marnie in it. Yeah. But Alison and I worked together in our 20s. We did a thing, Paul Abbott's first drama, and it was called Butterfly Collectors, and with the great Pete Postlethwaite. And so we've kind of, climbed the ladder together, I guess. But Alison was really inspiring to me because she was an actress who she just got to the point where she wasn't getting the work that she should have been getting because she was getting older. And so she wrote a brilliant series that I don't know if you've seen, but if you can see it, it's called Harlots.
Okay.
And it was on part of ITV Encore, but I think it's on Hulu now, but on Amazon Prime, sorry. And it's called Harlots, and it's an female-led cast with Samantha Morton and it's great, Leslie Manville, great cast, all about 18th century sex workers in London. And it's fantastic. And if you get a chance to see it, Harlots is brilliant, isn't it?
We're looking for something new to watch, and I've got Amazon Prime, so that's on the hit list.
Yeah, and you have to subscribe to Hulu, I think, to get it, but it's worth it because it's a real powerhouse of fantastic women doing their thing. So Alison was a real inspiration to me as well. So it's great to have her, on board.
Yeah, I mean, we should also say there's a great cause at the heart of this project, the Trussell Trust Foodbanks. Can you give us an overview of who they are and what they're doing and why you chose that charity?
Well, just simply because it was called Dun Breedin, and we thought it's all to do with families, and even though we are done breeding, we're still very interested in kind of the family unit and all that sort of stuff, and we saw that the NHS and a lot of charities were getting a lot of help, and quite rightly so. That was fantastic, but we just kind of looked into the fact that food banks had become a frontline service during the lockdown, which is so depressing and shocking. And people were really relying on them. And we were all chatting one day and we thought, remember when lockdown happened and everybody went out and kind of panicked, went into the supermarket and bought food? Imagine being in a situation where you couldn't do that and you were scared of feeding your children or your family. So we just thought that food banks were a really good a thing to highlight. And also the Trussell Trust, one of the reasons I love them, apart from the fact that they're everywhere all over the country, is that they have a long-term goal, which is not only to have food banks, but actually to eradicate hunger and poverty in this country, which seems... I can't even believe we're saying that in the 21st century, but...
It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, 14 million people living on handouts from food banks, 4.5 million children. And so we just thought they were providing such a vital service. And also if you can't donate and you don't have the money or you don't have the food even, you can still help the Trussell Trust because you can volunteer or you can fundraise or you can just kind of find out what the amazing service that they provide. So we just thought, if we're doing a show about families and all that sort of stuff, let's link it to something that might kind of raise a little bit of money as well.
Absolutely, makes sense. And I'll put I'll put up all their details in the show notes as well for this episode. So that, but
fantastic.
And they can we just talk about how people can find your program, find Dun Breedin? They go to YouTube, is that right? And just type in Dun Breedin.
Yeah. So if you go to YouTube and put in DUNBREEDIN, Dun Breedin, it's got adult content in it, so if you've got this child locks on, they can't watch it. And so we go out on Thursdays, every Thursday at 3 p.m.
Right.
And then we've got an Instagram page which has all the kind of updates and silly videos and behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'll link to that.
I was going to say the blooper reel must be incredible.
Oh, it's fantastic. So
you've got to thread those together.
Oh, I think we're definitely gonna do that because I've seen some of the outtakes and they are hilarious. Mostly everyone arguing with their families.
Yes,
yeah.
And also, as Denise Welch says, you get a chance to see inside everybody's houses, which everybody loves.
I know.
So the Instagram page is dun.breedin, and there's also the link to the Trussell Trust on that as well.
Fabulous, and I'll put all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much, Julie, for taking time to talk to us today, and for opening up the conversation around menopause, and please thank everyone involved, for being like the best example of midlife being an empowering time and a time for a change and a time for learning. I just love everything about this project.
Amen.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's an
I really
absolute joy.
appreciate your support.
Made by darkhorse digital.co.uk. Shooting, live streaming and podcast production.